Alrighty, good morning everybody. It's Friday, October 4th, 2024. Let's go ahead and scroll on back to yesterday and see what happened. It was another choppy day. If you zoom out and look at the whole day here, from the market open to market close, what do we see here? Just a whole bunch of back and forth, no conviction one way or the other. We're talking about the potential for the bulls to try and push higher. Because from the lows that we've been making here, right off of our roadmap level, quite literally for the last 2 to 3 days, or at least for the last 2 or 3 times the market came down to this area, we bounced right off this scaffolding area. So we did have an expectation of the bulls to try and break out to the upside off of that area. Sure enough, we're getting it right now, right? Coming out of the NFP news this morning, pre-market, we have actually broken out and pushed higher. But it took a while, and as you see yesterday, just kind of no rhyme or reason to the price action, but look at all of the rotations right off the roadmap levels. Still unbelievable price action off of those levels. Let's take a look in detail here. As we came into the open, they pulled back right into our holy orange power level, our only proprietary level we use, got that bounce within 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes of the open there, and got a push right to the next major roadmap level, and more specifically right to that previous daily close to the tick. The 2 other roadmap levels we had up above. So, did chop around out of the open, pulled back off. They were kind of just chopping right around 50% of that day before. Came back, hit that hopeful, launched out of there, did ride the FMA on the way up, did ride the back end of the previous day's midline there, came up, failed off there. And like I said, it was messy. It wasn't a nice, perfect bounce off every level, but did come back down, bounced off the hopeful, held the back end of the 50% level. And then finally, bulls tried to come back up and failed right off of our next roadmap level up above here. In a way, they did kind of stair step down the levels, but it wasn't anything clean. It was a total mess. Then you can see at some point after they pulled back off of the roadmap level for a second time, kind of giving a clue that we were going to go visit some lower prices, the bulls came right back up and pushed up a little bit further through. As you see, as they got through that area, they did pull back and bounce twice, try to continue to go, and then it fell back down, right? And there's our crossover. Unfortunately, first tag of the 200, by that point, they were just chopping right back up again. Like I said, it was not an ideal market. It wasn't really trading perfectly. Despite that, you did get that opportunity to try a fade off the back end of Hopeful here as it was failing back down. Essentially just kind of creating a slightly higher high for the morning there and then failing lower. And then you can see chop, 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 chop. But then the low of the day, they came down right to the roadmap level, quite literally to the tick, just a little in front of the low of the day before, right? Because they did come down and test that roadmap level the day before, go through it by a couple ticks, and then come back out. And so that was the major low of the day, was the major low. If we zoom out and look at the higher time frames here for the last couple days, it held, it held, it held, and then like we were saying, there were clues for a bounce out, and we didn't get the bounce out until this morning. So quite messy. Once we found the support from there, we did get a slight bull trend here going into the end of the day, but still extremely choppy, chopping around the holy orange power level there multiple times. And then right at the end of the day there, you can see that pullback off VWAP right to the 200 and the holy orange power level once again, and then popped out to finish the day up pretty much at the top end of the chop range for the last 2.5 days. So again, nothing super ideal here for trading because it was so back and forth. But despite that, some of the largest rotations of the day came right off our roadmap levels, nearly to the tick and to the tick in some instances. That brings us here into the overnight session and into the NFP news that was just released. And we can take a look at what happened last night. Market held the close of the day before on the pullbacks. Remember that holy orange power level is not printed until early in the morning because it's based off of overnight price action, so that wasn't there when we got into the Globex session last night. But pulled back, tried to get through the previous daily close, could not do that, and still, pretty choppy in here. Then eventually we had the hopeful print sometime around, there's the 5 a.m. Central Time, and then we got this push higher, and then right there you can see that's where the news release happened, right at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern. They did start to trend a little bit to the upside here just before the news was happening. They came up to this higher high. They held the fast moving average. Interestingly enough, pulled back right off of the roadmap level and then held the FMA to come up, and then bam, the news hit and they continued in that trend higher, pulling back right off of 50% of last week. A very critical level in the chart, bounced off the FMA on that pullback, and now here we are trying to continue to push higher right now, aggressively riding that fast moving average the whole way up. So that's the review for now. Interestingly enough, we're getting a pretty healthy little pullback right now, right off our next roadmap level, which was a very relevant price action feature in the chart. So not surprising, they pushed all the way out from the chop that we've been in for the last couple of days, everything down below 50% of yesterday's, that level there, basically chopping below 57.70 and 57.25. And then finally we break out, we come all the way up, get through 50% of the last week, and now we're pulling back right off of the very area I warned you could be a significant resistance if the bulls try to break out. Doesn't mean that's it, and we're just going to pull back 20 points now, but pretty nice pullback, peak above, and fell right off that area. So that concludes our review for the last day. Let's go ahead and jump up to the higher time frames and see what they have to say for this morning.